Hey monkeys, how you doing? Damien Keys here. All right, I want to talk about selling your album because this is something that's cropping up time and time again. When's the best time to start selling your album? And it's very, very simple. You need to start selling your album before you've even started writing the first song. Because at the moment, what people are doing is they're making an album and they're holding it in the air and saying, who wants to buy my album? And no one is bought into it. There's no emotional attachment. So you've got to start selling your album before you've even started writing your album. And I know this is a really, really odd thing, but hear me out. Number one, if you do this, if you start selling your album before you actually record it, then the people are going to become emotionally attached to the journey. They're going to become emotionally attached to the songs. They're going to be emotionally attached to you and you actually making the actual the tracks and whether you're actually recording them. The whole thing is a journey, a storytelling journey that people are coming with you. So that is number one. The next thing is it buys yourself time to drip feed stuff. So it's patient marketing. So it's actually saying, here is an album we are going to make in 6 months' time, but I'm going to write the songs. And every single time you're saying, oh, I'm really excited about this, or I've got this new track, or I've got this new chorus, you're drip feeding into it this excitement. And it's buying you time to carry on saying, there is an album, it is coming out, I need you to buy it, I'll let you know when. So people know what to do, they just need to know at what point it drops, so you can say, it's now, and they'll say, right, I've known this is coming for a long time, off we go. Rather than, here's an album, buy my album. It's just not enough. People are just going to ignore that. The third thing is anticipation. That anticipation, it kind of breeds excitement. So when you're saying, oh, I've got this album dropping in a couple of months, people are like, oh, that sounds exciting. I wonder what it's going to have on it. Whereas when you just hold it up in the air and say, finished, by the way, everything's done. So if you want it, I'll just leave it over here, then there's no anticipation, and that doesn't breed excitement. So I think that is something that is really important. Another point is research. What people tend to do is they hold up the album and say, here it is, and then it's like it or don't like it. It's a very ego way of making an album. I've made the album for me, hope you like it. Whereas if you're actually making tracks and seeing what's working and what's not working in the process of making the album, you have a much, much clearer definition of what you are making to add value to the listener, as opposed to the album that you want to make and hoping that people buy into it. So you've got that time to research it rather than holding it in the air and saying, this is the finished product, I hope you like it. And then the last thing is you get to make your audience feel special. You get to make them feel like they are in the know. And that in the know is very, very important. It makes them feel like they're part of a team, they're part of a community. If they are actually watching this album become a thing, almost even asking questions. I'm thinking of this for a possible album cover. All of a sudden, they are much more emotionally involved in the process. And therefore, they are much more likely to buy your album when it's done. So those are a bunch of tips on why you should start selling this album before you have even written the first song, because it's an important way so that when you get to the end of it, people have come with you on the journey and they feel they want that souvenir of the journey. Now, if you look at brands do this all of the time very, very well. If Nike drop a pair of shoes that you've just bought, then great, you've just bought a brand new pair of shoes that you couldn't have bought 3 months ago because they weren't out. However, Nike was selling you these shoes 20 years ago. You've been brought up watching the brand, and so you might not have been able to buy those shoes, but you bought into Nike over the last 20 years. And doesn't matter whether you're saying, I don't like Nike, that doesn't matter. The idea is these big marketers, these brands, they're selling you the idea of things over a period of time, and then they're just dropping the product. So you guys need to be thinking the same way. Before you say, I'm gonna make a record and try and sell it, it's very, very difficult to do it like that. Why not start to sell it before you've even started and then take people on that journey? And I talk about taking people on the journey quite a lot, but I'm not talking about this at the moment. I'm talking about selling records. I'm talking about how you can make a record that you can sell, because we talk a lot about building audiences and we talk a lot about whether we should have an album versus a single. But I'm talking about you built your audience and you want to make an album and you want to physically sell that album, in which case, when's the best time to do it? It is before you have even started. So you're taking people on that journey so that when it drops, you keep saying to people, by the way, it is coming, and when it does, it's going to cost you a tenner and I need you to buy it. And you say again and again and again and again and again, and then you say it's 10 days, 9 days, 8 days, and then it gets to the day you say, I need everybody to buy this, and people will have watched it enough and come with you on that journey, and they're much more likely, rather than a spur of the moment, off the cuff Facebook post of someone saying, by the way, the album's out. So have a think about it, and if you are thinking about when you're going to sort of start making your next album, then start thinking about when you're going to sell that next album just before you start the process, and take people on that storytelling journey from start right the way through to you holding it in your hand. Have a think about it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.